Hey, you. Yeah, you. The guy watching right now. The guy that when he was a kid, he loved anime power levels. And he was like, bro, anime power levels are the coolest thing ever. When we saw this dude and he was a lower power level than his opponent, and then he released his true power and became a higher power level than his opponent, and his opponent was like, wow, that's crazy, over 9,000. Yeah, that. You loved that shit. Don't lie. Don't sugarcoat it. You loved it. But now you hate it. I know. You don't hate it because it's an overused trope. The trope still kicks absolute booty cheeks. There's nothing cooler than when you're introduced to some badass character that can reshape the entire power scaling of the world as we know it, and you know he's that strong because, well, his power level is insanely high. It's still awesome and it kicks butt every time. The reason why you hate it is because it makes no sense. Every arc becomes more and more contrived, trying to keep power levels in check until the story eventually discards them entirely because, well, frankly, they detract from any level of believability of fight scenes. They detract from any unknown outcomes for fight scenes. Every fight scene basically becomes like, some sort of YouTuber beef, where the bigger number normally wins. This is the video where I prove all of you right, and also prove all of you wrong. This is the video where I'm going to be delving extremely deep after arduous research into how to not write power levels, and how to absolutely master them. Because quite frankly, they normally do one of two things. Either they succeed and they increase hype levels, or they're an absolute detriment to the series, and they're so annoying, and God, I just hate them and want them to go away, please, please. I gave more thought and put more research into this than anyone ever did in history, so I suggest you help increase this YouTube channel's power level by subscribing. I'd really like to get to 1 million subscribers on Nuxanor already, I'm not gonna lie. Main channel's been in the pooper, so really would like to, have this channel surpass it soon. I think that would be one of the biggest flexes in anime. But anyway, let's just get right into the meat and potatoes of how to not write anime power level systems things. Back where it all began. When you were a mere child, before you ever got your first boner and then realized you were looking at a fanboy instead of a woman. How things have changed. This is the ultimate Dragon Ball era, okay? I'm just gonna pull the sheet off your face. Listen, guys. And whenever someone says power levels, instant transmissions your brain straight to Dragon Ball. The whole meme, Goku reaches a power level of over 9,000 and Vegeta freaks out and breaks his power level scouter thing. Over 9,000!
It's over 9,000! 9,000?! There's no way that can be right!
Floops out, loses his mind. Yeah, that whole meme shiz. Admit it, it was incredibly badass the first time you saw it. You were able to completely comprehend exactly how menacing and threatening any individual enemy is at any point in time because you could just scan the dude and register his power level into your scanner thingo. You know exactly how threatening someone is. So every time the story wants to introduce some new villain or some new character, they always need to be an incredibly high amount more dangerous and more threatening than the last guy for there to be any form of gravitas to their entrance. Remember, at the end of the first arc of Dragon Ball Z, when the Saiyan saga, alright, dude reaches 9,000. He even surpasses the power level of 9,000. That's crazy. So the next main villain, Frieza, shows up, and well, this dude obviously has to have a power level even higher than that. So then, Kira Toriyama whips his dick out, slaps it on the table, and is like, gamers, Frieza has a power level of 530,000! The first time you heard that number, your butthole puckered up so much, you probably got anal fissures. You were just dealing with this dude. Guy Goku dude was fighting Vegeta. He reaches 9,000. It's like, oh, baby, it's so crazy. They make a whole meme out of it, all right? Over 9,000 is so wild, they make a meme out of it. His next major enemy has a power level of 530,000. That just lays the stage for how dangerous this dude is. And it's extreme to the point of ridiculousness. At some point, you can no longer use power levels, right? Like, it's getting into the millions and quadrillions, and the numbers lose all form or meaning. And that's exactly what happens. Eventually, Dragon Ball decides, you know what? We're gonna leave the power level thing behind. Yeah, we're never gonna talk about that again, because, every time they do Super Saiyans again, it becomes some sort of 10 times, 100 times multiplier to just, catch up really, really quickly. And then somehow, of course, all the other Z fighters are all somehow in the same ballpark later. It makes all the power scaling incredibly wonky. Because you have these hard numbers in the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, forever for the rest of time in Dragon Ball's history, as long as this is not retconned, you have no idea how insane and wonky the power scaling gets throughout. The power scaling in Dragon Ball Super makes absolutely and positively 0 sense because of how the power levels were laid out in early Dragon Ball Z. The fact that Krillin is even in the same sphere as someone like Goku, who's also Super Saiyan God Blue mode, it's just ridiculous. It's asinine, and honestly, it's a spit in the face of everyone that's been watching Goku power up and level up throughout this journey. On an incredibly superficial level, the introduction of Frieza with a power level of 530,000 was absolutely wild. But by the fact that every single new villain has to somehow top that, by not just 1 or 2, you know, Cell's not gonna walk along with a power of 536,000. No. Dude's gonna have power levels in the millions once he perfect Cell. It becomes a numbers game where, you know, at this point, the numbers don't really mean anything. It's like the writers just puts a little sign in the show saying, all right, be scared of this dude. He's freaking strong and scary. Dude has arms made out of titanium. He can even bench press your mom. He's so powerful. So while it is badass as an initial introduction, all right, to have something like power levels that you could feel some sort of growth from the main character, because everyone likes to watch a main character grow. Dude started off with a power level of 4, and now he's a power level of 8. That's progress, gamey. That's progress, baby. That's a main character that's growing, and we're watching, and it's very exciting. But it does get to a point where these numbers are arbitrary and kind of dumb. And I'm going to use another example of this. I'm going to throw out a bunch of bad ones still in this generic power level area, just so that I could kind of get this point across. Because the next one I wanted to talk about was Yuyu Hakusho. This is also an anime from the early 90s, and it also followed the same idea with power levels. Now, I wouldn't go as far as to say the power levels are the same generic number-based system like Dragon Ball. Nothing the writer of Yu Yu Hakusho touches is gonna be anywhere near as simple as Dragon Ball. This dude gets off on writing novels to explain power systems. However, I'm sure you could all appreciate what I'm about to tell you. So, the obvious transgressor of all of this is Toguro. Okay, this dude, he comes up, I'm only using 80% of my power. I'm only using 20% of my power. I'm using 37.5% of my power. And you have Yusuke, who's somehow fighting him, and then the guy's using 40% and 60%, and he's increasing the percent of his power, which again, on a superficial level, it's so cool. It's just so cool. But when Yusuke could barely beat a guy at 50% of his power, and then he unleashes 100% of his power, and Yusuke still just evened him, they could still fight on even ground, and then the dude's like, well, remember when I said I was using 100% of my power? I was lying! This is my real 100% of my power. Before I was really only using 80% of my power! And everyone in the audience is probably like losing their mind. Just, oh god, that's crazy! Wild stuff! Why? Oh my god! As he just like arbitrarily increases this by some, you know, random number that gives you a feeling of grandeur of who you're going up against. But then when you introduce the next arc, and Yusuke has to actually travel into Demon World at some point, and you realize that there are many different tiers of demons, okay? You know, there's the fodder demons, the C tiers, the B tiers, you have the A tier demons. Those guys are really strong. Then you have the S tier demons. There are only like 3 of them, and they're given like these incredible power levels to the point that every other demon in the entirety of Demon World together could not beat one of the S tier guys. There's only a couple of them around, but they are so much stronger than everyone else. It's like the equivalent of if you have an A tier guy, like a really buff, strong A tier dude. Dude has like a power level of 100. That's how strong he is. The S tier demon has like a power level of 5,000. That's how innocuous and useless everyone below S tier is at that point, to prop up and show you how dangerous the S tiers are. But here's the real kick in the pants. Remember Toguro, the guy that was like absolutely terrifying in the tournament, dark tournament thingy that happened just a little bit before this? The guy that was using 80% of his power and the entire world collectively nutted on him? That dude was a B tier demon. And they have to throw that out, just kind of spitball it and schlub it onto the table, just because, well, yeah, he was a B tier demon. That just goes to show how powerful these A tiers are, let alone the S tiers in the coming arcs. It basically retcons how awesome and badass a lot of previous characters are, and I find that relatively annoying when there are classes that just show up, and we need to start shitting on the previous guys to make these classes look stronger than they were. I'm telling you, I'm rewatching Yu Yu Hakusho, and I cannot take Toguro seriously knowing that he's just a B-tier demon. Like, what is going on? You imagine Yusuke, 20 episodes after the Dark Tournament, he goes back to fight Toguro, he would fart him away. The guy would fly away in a breeze of fart. And now, as just a third example of the huge transgressions in this area, I wanted to mention 7 Deadly Sins. They go back somehow, I don't know why they thought it was a good idea, but they go back to the Dragon Ball style power systems. And in my humble opinion, I have absolutely no idea why they did that. Like, it makes no sense to me. And they only introduced this in season 2, right? So you have season 1, 25 episodes, no one talks about power levels or anything, all right? It's all good. Season 2 shows up, immediately introduce you to power levels. Where all these Holy Knight guys that you were seeing before, oh, this guy has a power level of 4,000. This guy has a power level of 4,200. He's really strong. And then you introduce the 7 Deadly Sins. Each one of them has a power levels in the 20s and 30,000s. And then they introduce Escanor, who has a power level of like 100,000. And then they introduce the commandments, and it just keeps going up and up and up. And at that point, they're like, yeah, we can't do this anymore. We've reached hundreds of thousands, and there's no feasible way we can make Gil Thunder, this Holy Knight with the power level of 3K. We can't feasibly make him do anything even remotely useful against this guy with a power level of 4 billion. So, like, again, it becomes kind of retcon to kind of throw the whole system out. It was just kind of to give an idea of the difference between the 7 Deadly Sins, the commandments, and the Holy Knights. That was literally the whole purpose of the introduction of this entire power scaling leveling thing. So that you could be like, all right, Holy Knights, they have a power level of like 3,000. All right, the 7 Deadly Sins, they have a power level of like 20,000. And the commandments, they have power levels of like 80,000. All right, we're all good? That's it. Well, we're gonna go away now. We're never gonna talk about this again. Now you understand just exactly like who's where in the power level thing. Now throw it all out of your mind, because now we're gonna make the characters do things that shouldn't really make sense according to this power leveling system at all. We just wanted you to be a little scared. We wanted your panties to get a little wetter. But anyway, these are not the only transgressions of it. There are many, many more. And this isn't a video listing every single power leveling system in every single anime of all time. This is the deep dive. And there are also anime like Sword Art Online, where Kirito rolls around level 38, and when he goes up fighting against these dudes that are level 14, well, obviously he's gonna win. The dude's level 38. Like, come on, bro. What is going on? Now, I think that it was a really good idea that in the Pokemon anime, they did not introduce levels like, in the Pokemon video games. Because when you're playing a video game and you're growing levels with your Pokemon, that's fantastic. But could you imagine if they introduced a mechanic like that, like verbally in the Pokemon anime? It would just be really, really frustrating, right? Ash's Pikachu. Could you imagine he reaches, I don't know, he fights Gary in the Silver League or whatever it's called, and he has Pikachu at level 80, okay? Really top tier Pikachu. The balls on that Pikachu, dragging on the floor, that's how old he is, all right? Absolute mad lad. A few seasons later, he goes up against a level 5 Snivy in Pokemon Black and White, and Pikachu loses the one-on-one battle. Like, could you feasibly imagine a level 80 Pikachu losing to a level 5 Snivy? You cannot. But because you don't actually have the power levels posted for everyone, and it's more up to the user's interpretation, people could absolutely still get butthurt by him losing that fight, but not nearly as butthurt as if he was level 80. And this brings me into the next chapter, a soft power level system. You see, once we enter this era, a more soft outlook on power levels, I feel like it does a much better job at showing you how scary someone is. Maybe not impacting you as much as, 530,000 power level of Frieza, but still, it still works throughout the entire series, and you don't have to go back and start pooping on things and fights in the past in order for it to actually look good. So I think an easy example of this is like Naruto or Bleach, where they do a fantastic job with soft power levels. You introduce the captains of the Soul Society. Well, those dudes are stronger than the lieutenants. And the lieutenants, they're stronger than, the third place guy in their respective squads. That's just incredibly basic and simple stuff. Yes, every once in a while you will have a lieutenant that reaches captain level, but that's okay. It doesn't necessarily disregard previous encounters or previous fights. It's just a very nice, cool, basic way to say that this dude is good for his rank. And the same goes for Naruto. Naruto introduces different tiers of ninja, right? You got your genin, those are your baby bimbos ninjas, the little loser guys that are basically just fodder. They don't really do anything. Then you have your chunin, that's your average ninja dude. Once he reaches some some sort of level of, competence in his work. And then there's Jonin. Those guys are freaking elites, all right? Those guys are really dope. And as we start off with Naruto, where Naruto is a Genin ninja, Jonins, those guys are freaking terrifying. You will have some scenes where you see Jonin ninjas do some stuff and you're like, damn, they're like an entire other level. Like, this is wild stuff, right? Gaara gets hyped up as this incredible antagonist, someone that he wasn't even phased in the entire forest of death. He's someone that nothing could ever hurt him. He is so powerful. And when he's fighting Lee and he's about to deliver a crushing blow to Lee, immediately, Guy zips onto the stage and knocks away Gaara's sand attack, all right? Gaara is someone that is so powerful and so hyped up, and Guy was able to intercept that attack even from a distance, no problemo. This just goes to show the power of someone like Guy. Or when you have a fight between Neji and Hinata, okay? And Neji is about to go too far and really critically hurt Hinata, all of a sudden, instantly, you have 3 Jonin ninja all within arm's length stopping Neji's attack. Instantly. These guys are leagues above where Neji is right now. This is a really good way to show you some sort of power leveling system where you get to see a Jonin ninja is just way above where the Genin people are at now. It is a level to strive for, and it's not a level that's necessarily undermined at all. Even in this time, we have the S tier ninjas, the Kage tier ninjas, or the X ninjas that are S tier on the bingo book. Your Akatsuki, your Kages. We know, just by the fact that this dude is a Hokage, that this dude is going to be levels above the Jonins. This is a way to introduce characters as incredibly powerful characters, and also, instead of needing to introduce them with a power level, it's like, instead of saying this dude has a power level of 530,000, you could say, this dude is the guy that killed the first Hokage. And it's like, holy moly, what? That just gives you an entire new perspective. I definitely, generally speaking, do prefer a much more soft leveling system, where you have general tiers and tiers that are not actually ever pooped on by future episodes of the series. Obviously, as Naruto gets stronger and stronger, and he reaches an incredible powerful level by the end of the war, at the end of Naruto Shippuden, obviously a Jonin is going to command less respect in your eyes, but that's because you're following the journey of Naruto, who has surpassed that level. That said, you never actually have Jonins getting beaten up by Genins, aside from Naruto, later in the series. Those tiers still remain. And you also know that within each tier, there is a actual spectrum. You got Neji, who's a Jonin, and you got Kakashi, who's a Jonin. And Kakashi would absolutely poop all over Neji. You got Kankuro, who's a Jonin, and, you got Might Guy, who's a Jonin. Again, absolutely no comparison in their power level. Now, because of the spectrum, you don't have the same level of impact as saying Frieza has a power level of 530,000. I'm not gonna deny it and say that, well, yeah, it's the same. Dude just shows up, says, that's me, I'm an S tier ninja, and all of a sudden everyone's quaking in their boots like you see the actual insane power level that some of these villains have when they're introduced in Seven Deadly Sins or in, Yuyu Hakusho or in Dragon Ball, all those examples that I mentioned. However, it does give you enough wiggle room that you're not going to regret your life decisions by introducing power levels into the story, need to get rid of them later, and completely disregard so much of the work that so many of the people have needed to go through this entire time by being like, all right, Krillin and Goku Blue, they're still relatively even there. They're still kind of in the same league. Bro, what? So I will say straight up, right here, right now, completely honestly, dead face, dead ass, looking at you as you click the subscribe button right now and say, there is something beautiful about just putting a number on this stuff. You put a number there, and there's just a level of respect that comes with the number that just the generic rank just doesn't do it. Saying Soul Society Captain, or saying S-Rank Ninja, or saying, one of the freaking pillars from Demon Slayer, or anything that follows that. That's a top hero, top 10 hero, yeah, right. There is something so different about the number slapping you in the face, being so much monumentally higher than you could have ever expected to know exactly who you're dealing with right now. Now, I do appreciate a show don't tell aspect. I like when a villain or whatever is introduced and they do something that's so monumental and so colossal that you immediately realize that you are dealing with someone on a completely different plane of existence. But the simplicity of power levels is beautiful in its own right, and having a number attached to it instead of just vague categories, because among the Bleach captains, some of them are just way stronger than some of the other ones. It would be nice to have some sort of quantifiable number so that when this dude shows up, you know who you're messing with immediately. And I do believe there is one series, that actually did master this. And in all honesty, that was really the main reason why I was inspired to do this research and look at all these power systems and power scalings and power levels and all that stuff. And it's really what made me decide to make this video right now. So let's get into the perfect power levels. Let me introduce you to the bounties of One Piece. I know people get upset. You're talking about One Piece again. Oh, God. Yes, okay, we know you like it. I'm not reading it. It's a billion chapters. Bro, even if you didn't read One Piece, take a gander. Take a listen to how brilliant this power leveling system actually is. It will absolutely blow your mind. You literally get to have your cake and eat it too. On the one hand, you do get your actual numbers. You know, you got a number value on how threatening this individual is by how expensive their bounty is. So if you see a dude with a bounty of 1 billion berries, it's like, Jeebus, this dude is freaking scary. Scary enough that the government put 1 billion berry bounty on his head. And you know how much governments like money. And they're willing to give that much away to kill this dude. Obviously, he's scary. So you got that, you know, dick slap in the face when you see an incredibly high number, the same way you would get when you see Frieza as a power level of 530,000. On the other hand, it also doesn't debunk anything. It doesn't ruin the past at all, because these power levels are not regular power levels. You see, bounties are a reflection of how dangerous someone is in the eyes of the government and what it's worth to them to have this person eradicated. You see, here's where it gets wild. It's not a reflection per se of their power, just of their level of threat to society in the eyes of the government. You'll have a character like Nico Robin, who ran away from the island of Ohara when she was a freaking child, okay? She was not powerful. She didn't have a devil fruit. She's this 8-year-old kid. Some One Piece guy in the comments gonna correct me on the age, but I'll be honest, I don't really care. She's this child. She can't do anything to anybody. She can't beat anyone ever. Literally ever. But she immediately gets a bounty of over 80,000 on her head because of how dangerous the information she has and how much of a threat she is to the world government. So you see, it is not at all connected necessarily to the power of the individual. However, let's not make believe the power of the individual doesn't make a huge difference as well. Obviously, someone stronger is someone that's going to be a much, much bigger threat to the government. So in turn, their bounty level will rise, and so on and so forth. Yes, it's a level of how much of a threat they are, and there could be fake news and fake stories going around about fake victories, giving people inflated bounties, and there also could be people that completely slid under the radar, are incredibly strong, but they're just, no one heard of them. Literally no one knows who this guy is. And Nell is a character that is so powerful. Dude acts like a literal god, dropping lightning bolts on anyone that dares defy him. Incredibly powerful, but he has been staying on Sky Islands this entire time. He never came down to the East Blue, to the domain of the world government. Because of that, you'll have someone like him, incredibly powerful, incredibly menacing, incredibly dangerous, with no bounty on him because he just wasn't relevant to the world government at that point. You could have a mix. You have a numbering system that could let you know exactly how dangerous somebody is, and also it isn't necessarily a one-to-one reflection of their combat skills. You will be able to have your progress as the series, watching Luffy's bounty increase from 10,000 to 100,000 to 1 million to 1 billion as the series progresses, and you will understand how this dude has become so much more powerful and how he's impacting the world in such an amazing way. You see, he's not out there to become the strongest pirate, he's out there to become the king of the pirates. It's about his being recognized as the king of the pirates, and that recognition comes with a level of respect and fear towards him, a power that is in his name alone, and that is why his bounty level increasing throughout the story, at the same time as his power level increasing throughout the story, is so perfect. It is phenomenal on every level to tell so many stories. I like the propaganda concept in One Piece so much. You have this dude, Big News Morgans, who's like, well, it would give me great headlines if I just release an article saying that Luffy beat an emperor. Even if Luffy didn't beat the emperor. And he releases this newspaper, everyone thinks he beat the emperor, and all of a sudden this dude's being hailed as an emperor himself. Someone so much more dangerous and threatening than even his true actions were. So bounties do a great job to talk about propaganda and to give commentary to how information works and how dangerous some information could be. However, it also does such a good job in its standard sense. Generally speaking, the most powerful people will have the highest bounties, and that's just because there is a threat that comes with great power. That said, it is not rigid. It doesn't stay rigid in its rigidity this entire time. It shows you how dangerous someone is in the eyes of the government, and it does get to whack you in that face with that 530,000 Frieza power level. I remember the first time I saw Katakuri's bounty, and this dude had a bounty of over 1 billion. That was the first bounty in all of One Piece with a bounty level of over 1 billion. I remember when that chapter dropped, and I saw that, and my jaw dropped. I was blown away that Luffy is gonna go head to head with this dude who's not even, you know, the main antagonist of the arc. He's not even the Emperor. He's just the Emperor's general, and he has a bounty of over 1 billion. I remember how much that whacked me in the face just reading this as the chapter comes out, and I see this dude sitting there tossing a jelly bean in the air with his thumb with a bounty of over 1 billion on his head. You literally get to have your cake and eat it. You have the numbering system to just smack you with the importance of a character with one panel alone. You don't even need them to do anything. Just by the fact that their bounty is so high, you know they are that dangerous. And also, it doesn't need to be so rigid that it eventually snaps when you introduce characters that, you know, retcon the importance of previous characters. It's a concept that was introduced literally all the way in the beginning of One Piece, and it's a concept that is still incredibly prudent, practical, and powerful in relaying information today. Ladies, gentlemen, and others, I do appreciate you being here. This was a really, really banger video, in my humble opinion, and I don't think it's gonna do that well on YouTube, to be honest, but I don't really care. It's a concept that I wanted to look into for a long time, and I'm glad I did, and I got to share this findings with the world. So if you want to share this video around, that would be great. And if you really want to help my channel, honestly, even more than subscribing, can you click on another video of mine right now? Like, go to the recommended beneath this video and just click on another one. YouTube algorithm will be like, bro, this guy, he's keeping people on his channel, and actually maybe help me out a little. That would be really cool. So please do that. Have yourself a most wonderful evening. This will count as my One Piece video of the week/month. I know I've been falling off doing those, but I've been really busy. Share this video to a friend if you want to flex just how awesome One Piece is, or if you want to just poop on their opinions in general. I love pooping on other people's opinions. It's my favorite thing to do. Have yourself a most wonderful evening, and remember to stay weird, fam.